up, enjoy the ride with Crystal Petrie Consulting. So inspiring, pushing you to your dreams.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of 60 Minutes With. I'm your host, Crystal Petrie. Today, we are going to learn what is a provost. And if you've never heard of that word, and maybe you have, but had no idea what it was, like myself, you will learn what it is today. And it has all to do with higher education, going to college, whether that's a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree or whatever that looks like for you. Today, educating us on what a provost is, we have Dr. Wendy Elmore, who herself is a provost.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you, to be on this, and to learn more about the process as well. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. When our mutual friend, Kathy Taylor, was like, I have the perfect person to be on your podcast. She's a provost. I was like, what is a provost?
I understand.
Yes.
I get that question a lot.
And when we initially spoke on the phone, that was my first question. So again, what is a provost?
So a provost varies, and it has various meanings depending upon the institution, that whether you're, I've been at a previous institution where I was for 16 years, and that the role of the provost was a little bit different than what it is here.
Okay.
So it's somewhat identified and determined by the president or the chief executive officer. So a general term or definition for provost is a senior administrator that's tasked with overseeing all the academic affairs of the college or the university. It oftentimes is someone who is designated as the second in command should the president or chief executive officer be unavailable to make decisions or be out for a variety of reasons. So that's kind of how it's operated here. So when I became the provost here, I was hired to be the provost back on April the 1st of 2020. I learned that the term provost that I was familiar with, the duties were a little bit different. So at Lamar State College Orange, the provost is basically, it reports to the president, Dr. Thomas Johnson, and I am responsible for overseeing the daily operations of the college. Being a president is very taxing, it's very time-consuming. A lot of obligations for being out in the community or being at the state legislature. He has to be in Austin a lot to talk about our funding opportunities. He has to meet with stakeholders. He has to meet with donors. So his priorities are generally to be off campus, out in the community, to represent what Lamar State College Orange does and help to be that ambassador, that champion, if you will, so that everyone knows about the great things that are going on under his leadership. So what he has specifically tasked me in my role to do is to carry out his vision, execute his vision, and that is really to just transform lives and make sure that the lives of Southeast Texas have access to Lamar State College Orange. So in that, as a provost, I do oversee all student affairs. So those would be admission processes, application processes, registration, student payment, financial aid. And I also oversee all academic and technical affairs. So any of our faculty, any of our deans or directors that are over and supervise our general education program, our academic transfer programs, our court reporting program, any of our different academic offerings. I oversee all those people as well. So I have a broad array of responsibility, basically to ensure that the student's experience is a good one and the quality of their education is meaningful, and it will indeed transform their life. It'll provide them an opportunity, the best possible opportunity, to go to a university or to go immediately into the workforce after they have completed whatever their journey is with Lamar State College Orange. So a provost is kind of someone who will make sure that the daily operations go on in the absence of a president while he's out doing his important duties. But it's also sitting down with the president and hearing, what is your vision? What is it that you need? And he generally will have a broad vision. So it would be right now to increase access. Our access to students or potential students in Southeast Texas. So we know that Southeast Texas is comprised of many rural communities to
Right.
which access to education is not easy. And as such, because that is his vision, I have to do things that will help to launch that vision, to execute the vision. So really, it is kind of his left hand, right hand. When he's out, I have to kind of be in charge. But I also have to be willing and able to hear his vision and go and do whatever it takes. So it may not always be where I'm limited to campus. Sometimes I have to travel with him to Austin. So it is, that is how Lamar State College Orange Provost is defined. And that generally is determined by the president and how they perceive the role to be. I will say I work with provosts, other provosts in Southeast Texas, and their role is slightly different, just because the focus that the president has on that role. So it really is determined by what the president needs, what his or her vision is, what his or her leadership style is, and also just the way that we work together. So he knows that I'm always supportive of him. I'm always here to do what I think is going to be the best opportunity for us to meet his expectations.
So Dr. Wendy, you are a provost here at Lamar State College in Orange. How did you become a provost? Is there a direct educational pathway to this, a degree plan? Is there certain jobs you have to do before you're hired as a provost?
That's a great question. And so I will tell you my personal journey, and that can kind of help you better to understand how I got here. But I think it's determined somewhat by what the role of the provost will be based on the chief executive officer, the president. So as far as an educational pathway, higher education generally endorses and or recommends that administrators in the college or the university have a terminal degree. So because of that,
And by terminal,
I
you
mean
mean?
like a doctorate degree.
Okay.
So terminal meaning the highest possible degree you can get in that field. So if you're a medical doctor, you would get an MD.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a licensed psychologist, you could get a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So in education, oftentimes the terminal degree for someone who is an educator, a general educator, not a practitioner where I'm teaching history, but I'm going to be a leader, basically in educational leadership, is an EDD. So that is a terminal degree of higher educational leadership, of which I pursued and completed with Lamar University. I completed it back in 2015. So at that time, my goal was never to necessarily be a provost. It's never been about the position.
Mm-hmm.
It's about having the best opportunity to transform lives and change lives. How can I have the biggest impact? And sometimes other individuals are motivated by the title or the position. So traditionally, in order to become a provost, you would have to have experience either working in student affairs or in academic affairs, whether it be a dean or an associate vice president,
Mm-hmm.
where you've managed, you've helped to oversee and supervise, whether it be financial aid or admissions or advising, recruiting or dual credit or maybe the academic transfer programs. So it's not uncommon that if an individual seeks to become a provost or even a president, that they have that experience as a leader in overseeing an academic and or a student affair department in a division. One of the things that makes Lamar State College Orange unique and with a lot of other colleges is my role is to oversee both academic and student affairs. So for individuals who have gone to college as a student, oftentimes they don't necessarily know the difference between those. But basically what the separation is a student, as someone who once wakes up, decides they want to go to college, they will go through the application process, the admission process, the registration process. They'll meet with advisors, they'll do financial aid. That is all done under the student services piece. So once that student actually becomes a student and begins attending college classes, whether they want to go into teaching or they want to go into court reporting or they want to go into massage therapy, whatever program they're trying to pursue, then the people who help work with that student are academic affairs.
Okay.
So most colleges have generally a vice president of academic affairs who will oversee all the programs that students can enroll in and take classes and graduate with licenses or degrees in. Then they'll also have a vice president of student affairs who will oversee
So that's two separate
two
people.
separate individuals. And so the philosophy of our president is, and this is becoming more popular, it's gaining some momentum across the nation, is a lot of times when you have two separate divisions, that just solidifies the division, right?
Oh,
And
I see
so
what
for
you're
a
saying.
student's experience, it may be a disconnect, if you will. So the philosophy of the vice president of the student services may not always be the same as the philosophy of the vice president of academic affairs or instruction, however it's termed. And if that's the case, the student's experience might vary. So they may be, in the vice president of student services, may be all about student access, let's do whatever we can, let's break down those barriers, as opposed to the vice president of academic affairs or instruction might be, well, let's make sure we preserve all of our rigor, and I'm not discounting either approach, I'm not endorsing either approach, but in those types of instances where there's a disconnect between those two vice presidents, it really is at the expense of can be at the expense of the students. Because, there's somewhat of a divide in the philosophies. They also think of the employees who are trying to assist this student, or these students may have work in silos, if you will. So what has happened with Lamar State College Orange under Dr. Johnson's leadership is I am actually the executive vice president of both student and academic affairs. There's not a vice president of either. So I see, basically, as we're working to execute Dr. Johnson's vision and what's best for this community and our students in the community, is we work cohesively. So the academic and student affairs, they all the communication lines that can be blocked are opened. The decision making between academic and student affairs is more
Linear, huh?
Yes, much more linear, and so students' experiences are generally more compatible between when they're becoming a student or graduating versus when they're attending. That's generally how it is. So I tell you that to let you know that sometimes the path to becoming a provost is probably going to be enriched by individuals who have experience in both an academic and a student affairs, of which I did. So when I entered higher ed in 2006, I was employed on the student affairs side.
Okay.
Learned a lot there, worked in that position, worked in that role, in that division, if you will, because there was a vice president of student affairs I reported to for 7 years, and then I moved over into the academic affairs and became eventually the vice president of academic affairs. So I had experience, I had an understanding, I have a knowledge of the goals that both of them have, and how sometimes there can be some, it's a challenge to navigate between those and identify, well, does this work better? Well, it might work better for the student while they're in the program, but it may be, I just have a better understanding since I've been in both divisions.
Right.
So I would say that if someone's really interested in becoming a provost, which generally has, is kind of like indicated earlier, the name for an individual who oversees everything, if they can have a broad experience throughout the college or a broad experience in different departments throughout the college, that certainly serves them well. And they become probably better able to manage, because there's always going to be, not competitions, but there's always going to be conflicting ways of doing things. And while it may be best for the student on the student services side, it may be harder for the academic side. So you just have to understand some of those pitfalls. And I think it makes an individual who is seeking to become a provost more effective, the broader experience they can have throughout the college. Okay? That's a long answer, but there's really not a track. It's about experience, I would suspect, and exposure.
So it's experience and education.
Both.
Both. Okay. So I have two questions here, and it might be the same.
Okay.
I'm not sure. How do you determine which classes to bring to Lamar State College Orange? And also, how do you determine what is best for the community here in Orange, Texas? Or I guess Southeast Texas.
Southeast Texas.
Because you guys service, yeah.
Sure. So they are somewhat linked, I will say that, because I'm not going to, we're not going to support, and I say I'm speaking collectively for all. I have a wonderful team that I get to work with. So we all work together, we all work a very unified, student-friendly, student-centric approach. So when I say I mean all of us, because we are very cohesive. We will not, we will research, I mean, obviously we get a lot of feedback from community members, we have lots of focus groups. We will research pretty much any request and or recommendation, but some of the criteria that really has to be considered before it becomes a viable opportunity is it a pathway that's going to lead to a career for, because we like to keep them in Southeast Texas. Is it going to lead to a career that they can obtain and have in Southeast Texas?
Okay.
And is it a livable wage? So, I mean, if
Very
it's not
important.
a livable wage, it may be the best, this may sound like the best program. For one example, and this is, school districts have to deal with this a lot. I also have experience as a school district. I was a high school counselor for 5 years, so I have that experience, which is helpful knowing that we have a lot of dual credit students. But I am very collaborative with our superintendents and our counselors at the ISDs. One of the things they're dealing with is a program called floral design.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Floral design. So while floral
Is that flowers?
it's like flowers, and so but the fact of the matter is, and while it's a very great, I mean, think of this, in Texas, we know that football is king, we know that the mums in Texas are
Right.
huge, and we know that the Christmas wreaths are wonderful, and those
Yes.
are so fun to make. They're wonderful, so those are great projects for floral design students, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, what happens when they graduate high school? There is a license, but it's not going to put them on track to
Right.
a high demand career.
Or a livable wage.
Livable
which
wage.
is why I was giggling, like,
I know.
what can you do with that? Yes.
So I watch these school districts really struggle with how do you handle that? Because those are popular with the students, and understandably so. It's just really a neat trade to acquire, a neat skill, but it's not truly what we need to be doing. So that is an example that I can see our school district partners struggling with. Similarly, if someone came and approached us about a floral design program, that's really hard for me to support. I appreciate very much the florists. I know that there's a huge that they have a lot of value, you know, that people enjoy getting flowers, whether it be for a birthday, to celebrate, to honor people. But at the end of the day, there are not enough florists in Southeast Texas that it would make sense for Lamar State College Orange to put together a floral design program.
Yes.
Okay, so that is key for us is this something that is really going to serve the students? Our students' interests are always number one. And I say interests, but they're futures. And sometimes, while they may come and say they want to be a florist, and we know that we will need some in Southeast Texas, but there may be some other opportunities they just didn't know that they were aware of. So that was the question you asked about how do we know about a program. So we will always look, and I'm on the workforce, Southeast Texas Workforce Board. So I'm familiar with what they call high wage, high demand, or targeted occupations that are specific to Southeast Texas, which is important because, you know, again, we serve Southeast Texas. We're very, we stay very informed of those in our monthly meetings. We know what those jobs are. We know what the industries are, if you will. We know that Southeast Texas alone has over $90 billion worth of industry coming.
Right.
So as we start hearing rumblings of those, Lamar State College Orange becomes primed. We start researching, what does that mean? What training needs will accompany not only those employees that will potentially come for this industry, but what about their children, or what about their spouses? What will they be doing? So we work closely with our Economic Development Center as well, our EDC, the Orange County Economic Development Center. And we stay engaged with who they're working with to try to bring to Orange County, if you will. In fact, back a couple of years ago, we were, the Orange County Economic Development Center asked us to come to the table when they were trying to negotiate with a business that was already in Orange County but was considering relocating to South Carolina. And so after several conversations with one of our deans, they decided no, they were not relocating. They wanted to stay because they learned some of the things that we as an educational partner could help to support them with their employees as well as the spouses of their employees. So we take advantage of all those opportunities to be out in the community, to be hearing, and to be watching what is needed. And those are generally the things that will help drive our interest in figuring out what is the next program. Since I arrived in 2020, we've added court reporting, we've added massage therapy, we've added, there's several of them. Electromechanical technology, which used to be known as a machinist. We've added a list of them. I mean, we've added probably 10 or 15 different awards because of our industry partners and or the Economic Development Corporation coming and saying, we really feel like this is going to be important. And then if it's on the high targeted occupation list, then that really does give us good comfort in knowing that it's going to be needed. You also asked about how we decide what programs. Mm-hmm. The other question was about
the community.
The community.
How do you know what's best for the community?
So again, all of those, it's very tightly woven. We are, a lot of our employees are either on a local board. We've got some that are on United Way Board or Salvation Army. Dr. Johnson, the president, and I attend a monthly meeting with the elected officials.
Orange County?
Orange County.
Okay.
Orange County elected officials, so it's the first Tuesday of every month. We attend a breakfast. There's also a quarterly meeting of the Orange County industrial and educational leaders. So we attend that. We're very invested in the community, and we participate in community events. So we've got our employees are very invested in the community. So we try to be a representative of the community as much as possible. And in that, we cultivate lots of communication, lots of trust with them, and so we kind of want to be their go-to.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
You know what I did not know, amongst other things, that you guys think so far out, generational. Mm-hmm. I assumed that like the colleges and universities, they only think about the student, like the current student that's going to that university or that's going to Lamar State College Orange. But you think about the student, the spouse, the children, so you think generational.
We do.
Why is that important?
It is very important. Southeast Texas is one of 10 regions in Texas, and we have the lowest populated 25 to 34-year-old students in our region. So what that tells us is we have a lot of work to do. And we know that because our work is not done with just the students that are sitting in our classes, but there's so many more. I know that we have a high population of first-generation students. So those are the students that are the first in their family to ever attend college. And what that also tells us is that they have siblings, they have aunts, uncles, they've got parents, even grandparents that could benefit. Lamar State College Orange also doesn't quantify what college looks like. So we look at, obviously we want to be able to support those that want to move on to Lamar University or Stephen F. Austin or Sam Houston State University or McNeese. And we want to offer those English, history, government classes, but we also, and the technical programs that will go out, and the students will go out into the plant to become process operators. Those are all great careers. But we also know that college for some can be our CDL training. Coming here for a 5-week CDL to become a commercial truck driver, mm-hmm. which is a high-paying, it's on the high-paying, yes. High-wage demand list. So that is college for some students. Some students, the college is coming for 16 hours of forklift operator training. That is college to them. Mm-hmm. So we try to break down what is some preconceived notions as to college having to be sitting up straight in a college classroom where you're taking notes actively, listening to the instructor teach you math or government or history. It is not. It can be whatever you need to further advance your ability to have a high-wage, high-demand career, a career that can provide a livable wage.
So one of the things, and it's one of my questions later on, but we'll just tackle it now. I know you. One of the things that you've spoke about is you want to make sure that the students are successful here at school. And what I'm hearing you say is that Lamar State College Orange is not a linear college. No. Not that there's anything wrong with, because I went to 2 linear colleges, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in the times that we are in now, linear college just doesn't
Doesn't
work
work.
for people.
It does not.
So you have to be able to pivot to adjust to where that person is in their life.
Right.
And that seems like something that you guys are really intentional about when it comes to the success of the students.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we listen to our students, we do community focus groups, we do student focus groups, we listen to what their needs are. And then while they're a student here, whether they're doing the crane operator training, the CDL training, the history, the more traditional university transfer courses, we are also very actively engaged with them. There's a strong correlation between a student's level of engagement in their college and their success to being able to complete whatever their program is. So we have a very vibrant student life opportunity for all of our students, regardless of the program that they're in. We've got activities next week. We're hosting the Winter Jam. Our student life is phenomenal. I mean, we've got a First Thursday, which is an evening event that any of our students are able to attend. They'll have chess clubs, they'll have movies, they'll have pizza, we do student appreciation days. I mean, we're constantly trying to celebrate our students and help them to find a presence, feel welcome on campus. Interestingly enough, a lot of the colleges, as you've mentioned, have tried to pivot. And so a lot of the strategies revolve around online education.
Right.
Online education is great, but what we've determined is that 76% of our first generation students struggle. I mean, it requires a different level of discipline
And
a different
determination.
with
Yes.
smaller intentional support systems. I'm not saying that, I mean, they can have some intentional support systems, but it's harder to navigate and try to get students to take advantage of those. Well, our actual population of students who are enrolled in only online education has decreased. After the pandemic, what many other colleges and universities have experienced is that's increased. Because they saw students that during the pandemic, we had to pivot to online in a large population of our programs. So students saw that, they're taking advantage of that. You also see private colleges all around the nation that have more flexible online options. Lamar State College Orange has decreased, honestly. And I attribute that to who we serve. We serve students who yearn the engagement with their faculty, with their peers, with staff members, not even me. I mean, we enjoy being with our students and they enjoy being with us. That they feel a niche, they feel at home. So while we're not discounting the value of online education, we do teach online programs, we recognize that that is not going to satisfy all of our students in Southeast Texas. They crave the face-to-face interactions. We have tried to identify some more flexible options because while we do have those first-generation students, a lot of ours are parents. They have children.
Yes.
They're working. They're part-time
Yes.
students. And so while they want the face-to-face, they maybe can't come 4 days a week. They maybe can only come 1 day a week. But they still want to have an option to come. So we're trying to incorporate some technology that can help us do some hybrid flex options. So a student who wants to come and take this accounting class on campus, rather than having it online, because we offer it online, we're trying to offer hybrid flexible options where they can come 1 day a week. The second day a week that they would come, because it's a 2-day class, would be an online, or they could be at the doctor's office with their child, or they could be watching it virtually, or it's recorded. So we're trying to incorporate those as well, because we've heard our students say they're not interested in strictly online. There's some, but it's overwhelmingly we are being asked to keep our face-to-face classes. So a lot of colleges are having to really pivot to more online options, and we're trying very hard to navigate that because our students really do not, they have told us they want the engagement.
You know, I'm going to ask an off-brand
Okay.
question here. So I know some like major companies and major corporations are kind of doing the same thing that Lamar State College is doing. They're pivoting and trying to meet people where they are. So as far as like working mothers and working fathers, one of the things that they have incorporated is like a daycare, like on campus.
Yes.
Is that something that you guys have thought about, bringing a daycare on campus? So the
we have. I've been in another institution that has a daycare. There's a lot of regulatory red tape.
I'm sure it is.
That I'm not saying it's not worth it. It does bring some value, but there's also some political things that we have to consider with their existing daycare facilities that are in the community, right?
Yes.
So you have to really navigate that. While it's wonderful, it could have an unintended adverse consequence on those. And so in our research, we've identified there's some really good daycare providers locally. And so that's kind of, we're a bit conflicted. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because of that. So it's really not that we're afraid of the bureaucracy or the red tape at all. It's about what does that do for our local, because that's an industry partner, right?
It is. It is.
So how does that impact them? And so we have to really carefully determine that. So.
No wonder you're a provost.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that side of it. I never would have thought of that side of it. So one of the great things that's happened here at Lamar State College in Orange is in the fall of 2023, you guys had an enrollment of over 3,100 students, which is a record of all time.
Yes.
What do you attribute that to? First of all, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. We work with great people. Our president, from him down to me and everyone else, he is the champion of this college. He recognizes what he perceived. He arrived here back in 2018, and it was a great college, but there was not a champion, if you will, that was out advertising and saying, come, come, come. And so that's a big piece. The brand awareness, if you will. People now know that Lamar State College Orange is on the map. So that gives us credibility, and that gives people, I think, more interest in us than was happening before. You actually took the words from my mouth, but it's something we really embody here. We meet the students where they are. So college is not something we define. We let them define what they need. We meet them where they are. You need to become a truck driver? Absolutely. We start a new class every Monday. You want to learn to drive a school bus so you can go work, be have good hours to be a mother. You can, drive a bus in the morning, drive in the afternoon, have the same holidays as your own kids. We start that every Monday morning. You want to transfer, you want to get a PhD in psychology? Absolutely. We've got university transfer courses that are the exact same courses. They will not only transfer, they'll apply to Lamar University, to any four-year college or university in Texas without any question at a fraction of the cost. Our cost compared to universities in Texas we are 1/3 the cost, or really we're 1/5 the cost of some of the public universities around here. I'm not going to name names, but we are 1/3 the cost of Lamar University. We're 1/5 of some a little bit closer. We're 1/10 of a college in Louisiana. So, that's a significant savings. It really is, to get the credit for those first 2 years that you can then transfer. So the enrollment that we've seen, the increase has been probably because our tuition, we've actually cut our tuition by over 40% in the last 6 years, thanks to our generous support of the state legislature. They've increased their funding to us so that we could cut our tuition rates.
Great.
And so it was kind of a parity, if you will. It's an equity. They gave us more money. We said we serve rural students. We serve students who are first generation. We serve students who want to come to college but may not be able to afford it. Please help us. And so they increased their funding to us so that we could decrease our tuition rates. And so we've decreased our rates by over 40% in the last 6 years. That's huge.
That is.
So that makes access even easier. We are more flexible. We've created an 8-week session. So most traditional colleges and universities, you have a fall semester, you've got a spring semester, you've got a summer semester.
Yes.
And usually the fall and the spring are about 16 weeks long, right? You start at Labor Day, you end right before Christmas.
Yes.
Same in the spring. Well, what we identified was a lot of our students were dropping classes weeks 10 and 11. It gets really hard. That's a long time. If you're a mother, if you're a part-time student, and you had to take 4 classes to be fully eligible for financial aid. So we did some research. There are other colleges in Texas that kind of led the way. At that point, there were 4 or 5. When we rolled it out in fall of 21, we divided our 16-week session up into 2 8-week sessions. So a student, they are only, as 8 weeks, if they take 2 classes each 8 weeks, they're still getting the 4 classes. They're only focusing on those 2 in any given time. The fatigue and the burnout rates, are not, you're not in there long enough to be fatigued and burned out. So students are reporting that they love that. Our withdrawal and failure rates have decreased from 18% to 8%.
No.
Yes, I mean, we've seen significant. So we've done a lot of research, and those were some of the factors that really encouraged us to take that step. And it sounds like easy. It sounds really easy, but it's very complicated for financial aid. Students are now eligible to take full advantage of financial aid by taking just 2 classes in the first 8 week, 2 in the second 8 week, but there's lots of behind the scenes things you have to do.
Absolutely.
So I attribute that as one of the factors that helped our increased flexibility. So a student who comes in maybe the week after Labor Day and they're like, I want to start college. Traditionally, we would have said, okay, we'll see you in January, come back.
Exactly.
That's forever. I mean, they will have found 7 or 8 more colleges before then, right? So we have another class starting the second week of October. Let's go and get you registered today. We'll get your books. We'll get all that together, and you're ready to start in just a week or 2. So those are clearly variables of flexibility that we attribute some of the enrollment growth to. We've expanded our dual credit partnerships. We are serving a lot more dual credit students while they're in high school.
What is dual credit?
That is a great question because it's very confusing. So a student who is in Texas, a high school student in Texas, they have a minimum number of credits they have to graduate high school. They have to have 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 3 of science, those things. Right? It's very prescribed by the state of Texas. Very much so. But they also have to have an endorsement. So I was referencing the floral design. That's kind of in their public service endorsement, I think, or something like that. So high schools are encouraged to have career tracks as well, whether it be in animal science or welding or culinary or cosmetology or criminal justice. ISDs or high schools, independent school districts, are encouraged to do that because, again, they're trying to prepare these students that if they choose not to go to college, that they can have a livable wage, in an entry-level position. Mm-hmm. So what we've done in a lot of colleges throughout the nation, it's not even throughout Texas, there are some courses that we teach that have the same learning outcomes as those for high schools. Some Englishes, some maths, and that's always kind of probably histories, government, economics. Some of those are the exact same learning outcomes. And so at that point, a student could take it with Lamar State College Orange or another college that participates in dual credit while they're taking it at high school. And they will get, while they're taking our course, they'll get their high school credit for it as well. Really? Yes, so it's a partnership that has to form from the school district and us. So we have to come together, roll up our sleeves, look at the curriculum, confirm, yes, this course meets this course. You're willing to allow them to take it for us, and you will award them high school credit. And so that's really the premise. What's happened lately is the push statewide for more career and technical education.
Right.
And because of that, and because we have a robust array of programs that are career technical, those welding classes now, they could be taking the Lamar State College Orange welding, and they could get the welding credit at the high school. So that's really opened up a lot of opportunities. They could do the criminal justice, and the ISDs benefit from that. The school districts benefit from that because some of our school districts, which are rural and they're smaller, they don't have the funding, they don't have the room to offer these 5 or 6 or 7 career tracks. They don't even have the space to be able to put in a new welding or a new automotive or a new cosmetology or whatever those are. So we partner with them and we help. It's a win when the student will graduate with a college certificate or a college degree at the same time they graduate high school.
So like an associate's degree?
An associate's degree.
And a high school degree?
At the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time.
So when do they start? Would they start in their junior year of high school?
That's the most common. Some of the school districts have programs that they prefer to start in their sophomore year. It's really a district decision and what makes sense for them and their schedule and the programs that they want to partner with us. So a lot of that it depends upon what the school district wants, and then we try to customize our degrees, our certificates, which are anywhere between 15-hour semester credit hours and 45 or so. We try to customize those to meet the needs of the school district, obviously, because it's good for the students, but also what does that do for our industry partners? Every one of our programs that we develop has to have industry partner advisory committees to look at, to confirm, to feel good about, yes, these are the skills that you need. No, you don't need that course anymore. We no longer use typing in our industry.
And fax machines.
Fax machines. So please do not teach with typing anymore. So, I mean, it's a very good, rigorous process for us to be able to confirm, hey, our programs are going to indeed lead to employment in our industry partners. So they help us to formulate those. We share them with the school district partner, and so that's a win-win for all of us.
How, if I'm a parent, I'm watching this interview, how do I get my child enrolled in this dual credit program?
So it can be either through contacting your school district, your high school counselor, or they can contact our dual credit. We have dual credit at lsco.edu, and we can help to navigate that. If they're from a school district maybe that partners with Lamar Institute of Technology or Lamar State College Port Arthur, we would help them to figure out where that school district is partnering. And if it's not with us, we want to make sure that they have the same opportunity. We work really closely with Lamar Institute of Technology in Port Arthur. We try to provide same level of service and help students, because it's really, they shouldn't have to figure out where they need to go. We want to make sure that education is accessible for all of us. So they could reach out to us, and we could learn more about where they are attending, and if we're not the partner, we can connect them with who they need to connect with.
Now, you spoke about that Lamar State College Orange dropped their tuition 40%, which is
yes,
unheard of.
Yes, it is.
So how do you, and I'm referencing you as the provost, but I know you work with an amazing team, how do you determine the tuition cost and the cost of the classes? Like if you want to be a CDL driver or drive a bus, or how do you determine those costs?
So a lot of it depends upon some of it is statutorily. Some of it's set in statute by the Texas legislature.
Oh, okay.
Some of it is, like for out of state. Some of it is. But we will start looking to see what is competitive. And I mean competitive in the sense that how does it compare with another two-year college? What does that look like? So we will start looking at that. Obviously, we have to evaluate what the costs of the program are, but once we come to that and we determine how that's going to fit into all of our revenue stream, then we have to have it approved by our Board of Regents. So Lamar State College Orange is one of 7 colleges or universities in the Texas State University system. So our Board of Regents is appointed by the governor. It's a 9-member board, and they have the authority to approve our tuition rates and to review them, approve them, and or deny them. And then once we have that approved, then we publish it. So it's kind of a multi-step process.
It sounds like
it really is. I mean, the bottom line is we try to make it as low as possible for the students without it being a financial hindrance to the college, because then that affects our operations.
I know you said that you are supporting and enacting the vision of the president. Are there any initiatives that you have brought, because you're so well-rounded, and not to lessen your accomplishment, but you're so well-rounded in the academic and everything. So have you brought any initiatives here that you have seen that's been successful?
The 8 weeks, so that was something I was beginning at my previous institution, and it takes about an 18-month launch. There's a lot of things you have to really consider and evaluate. So the 8-week sessions or the 8-week terms was probably one of the biggest initiatives that I brought. I had been researching it. I was very intrigued by it. We are, one of the other things that I brought is we are a member of a Texas Pathways Consortium where we get.
What is that?
It's a consortium. Actually, there are 50 community colleges in Texas.
Okay.
And then we're not a community college, we are a state college. So that's
What's
a
the
little
difference?
confusing. I know that is very confusing. The difference is a community college is part of their revenue or part of their funding is based on property taxes in their assigned taxing region, which is dictated by Texas statute. So there's 50 of those that the Texas legislature over the years have pinpointed. This community college is going to be taxing these counties or these parts of counties, and that the property taxes that are assessed there is part of their revenue stream. As a state college, we don't have a taxing district. We can go anywhere in the state of Texas. Now, when we were chartered by the legislature, our establishment was in Orange, Texas, but I can go to any part of Texas, whereas community colleges have these little service area boundaries that they're supposed to stay within.
Okay.
So there are 3 state colleges, and they all happen to reside in this small area: Lamar State College Orange, Lamar Institute of Technology, and Lamar State College Port Arthur.
Those are the only 3 in Texas?
In Texas. And the other 50 are 2-year community colleges that have property tax base. So residents in Orange or in Beaumont or in Port Arthur, they're not charged property taxes. Their property taxes are not assessed on the colleges, the 3 colleges.
Thank you so much for
Yes,
that.
but the state helps to support that. So
Yes.
from the state's, in revenue, they help to support that. That's why we're considered a state college. But because we don't generate any revenue from our communities, respective communities, speaking for Port Arthur and LIT, we have authority and can operate anywhere throughout the state. So what the initiative was that I brought was, we were not included in the Pathways Consortium. And so I saw a void there, because there's a lot of best practices, there's a lot of professional development that I knew when I arrived here that I could continue to benefit from, but as well as my colleagues that had not been exposed to that. And so I begged and pleaded and cried. Maybe didn't really cry, but I just kept trying to convince them. Just because we're not a community college, I serve the same students that those community colleges do. The students, because of where they live and the fact that they come here, they shouldn't be punished and not allow us to have opportunities to learn and grow from being a member of this consortium. So after about 18 months, they finally, I don't know if they started feeling sorry for me, but they did finally allow us to come.
We'll take it, whatever.
And so we go twice a year. We take a team of 8 or 10 people of our employees from different departments, and we go and we network, we learn. It's a 3-day intense event in the fall and every spring, where we go and see, have you looked at this data? Have you looked at that? I mean, we literally have a coach, a success coach, that helps guide us, that stays in contact with us, and they force us to develop action plans and to evaluate our data and see what's working, what's not working. So while it's incredibly extensive in the work, it is worth the effort that we put into. The returns are significant. So that's where I learned most about the 8-week. We've done, we obviously apply for any type of grants. That is a vision that we have, and we've successfully written a lot of grants since I've been here. I've not been a part of that, but I, again, work with great people. So we believe, though, that we want to always be on the front of what's next, because higher education today looks vastly different than it did 5 years ago before COVID. It looks a heck of a lot different than it did 25 years ago.
Yes.
And what happens, I see a lot, is those provosts or those vice presidents that attended college 25 years ago, that's what they remember college as, and that's what they still try to perpetuate.
And it's no longer that.
It's not relevant anymore.
It's no longer that. Oh my goodness.
So you have to really think ahead, and you have to stay relevant.
Right, and continue reinventing,
Yeah.
Our neighbor, Louisiana, next door to Texas,
Yes.
do you charge out-of-state tuition for them?
They are able to complete an exemption, in-state exemption form. So if they live, I don't know exactly what the boundaries are. Generally, they pay in-state tuition. So it's very uncommon for a Louisiana resident that comes over here to pay out-of-state tuition, because they are able to file the exemption form with us. And if we honor that, and then we award them the same tuition rate, which is $118 a credit hour. So most college classes are 3 or 4 credit hours. To give you a perspective, some of the universities in Texas are 400, 500, 600 a credit hour. So ours is
Yes.
118. And some of them in Louisiana are over $1,000 a credit hour. So it is a significant cost savings, it really is. So.
It really is.
But Louisiana, they are allowed to file the exemption that they are a Louisiana resident and they're coming into our campus, so we do not charge them anything different than our Texas residents.
What is the mission and vision of Lamar State College Orange?
So the mission basically is for us to be a place where hope meets opportunity.
I like that.
We want to be where hope and opportunity intersect, but we want to create that intersection. We're not going to just let it happen, right? And our vision is always to transform lives. And in order to transform lives, it's going to be individualized. It's whoever's in front of us, whatever student is in front of us thinks that they need to be able to transform their lives. Our mission is to make that happen.
One of the things you talked about is as your role and responsibility is to make sure that the students enrolled here are successful here. I feel like, and it could be my point of view from when I went to college, that isn't that the student's responsibility? Or is it now being transferred over to the college's responsibility?
So that's an age-old question. And I'll be honest, I have been an administrator in college since 2006, and even I have shifted my philosophy. Okay, and I want to give you kind of a little bit of backstory. I'll never forget when I was at the Pathways Conference back in probably 2014, maybe 15, I don't remember, it was the first year. And one of the things that was brought to our attention was that this community college in Amarillo was opening a food pantry. And I'm like, a food pantry? But we're a college, how can we do that? I was really like, I could not make the connection. So Crystal, I really struggled with that. I'm like, granted, I don't want anyone to be hungry at all.
Right.
But my gosh, we're over here trying to teach history. We're trying to teach all these things. Can we really do a food pantry? And I was just like so confused. So that is kind of an illustration as to how my mindset has shifted. So slowly I started to see, you know what? Our students can't be successful if they're hungry.
It's true. They can't concentrate if they're hungry.
They can't concentrate. They don't have the wherewithal. The next thing I saw Amarillo the next year do was they had a clothes closet. They had like an emergency fund for students who had a flat tire that they could write, an essay to try to get $75, whatever. Try to get something. They also had free legal counsel. And I was like, that is a whole business in and of itself. We're over here just trying to run a college, Until I started making the connection. Everything that they were offering was to provide access to students to have an education that was uninterrupted by living decisions, right? That face all of us.
Yes.
But what they knew, and what it probably hit me, and I was like, oh my word, this is so true. They were just one flat tire away from failing.
It's
right?
true.
And if they can't get to
true.
class, how can you expect them to be successful? And I was like, you're exactly right. And so their success rate started to skyrocket. But what they never wavered from was the student's responsibility. So while they were offering all of these opportunities for students to remain on track and engaged, what they didn't waver on is the expectation that we're going to help you on these things so that you can focus on your college, you can focus on your education. You are now accountable. We'll help you with childcare, we'll help you with these things, but it's up to you to have removed those distractions and be fulfilling your requirement as a student to engage in your class. So it's kind of a twofold answer to what your initial question was. It is a student's responsibility, but by golly, sometimes it's just hard, right? It's hard to be a parent, it's hard to go to college, it's hard to manage a part-time job while you're doing all those things. And so it is, I feel like, incumbent upon us as a college to be able to soften that and make it lessen those barriers so that they can be that student that they need to be and intentionally focusing on to be successful.
Why should students come to Lamar State College? In orange.
In orange. We like to think that we should be a place of choice because we listen to what your desires are. We want to help transform your life, but we want to help it in the manner that you want to. We try to create a college that is meaningful to you and relevant to your needs. We try to be innovative in ways that, such as what we were talking about earlier, that we are not going to continue to do college as it was when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it was necessarily wrong. The students are different today.
Yes.
Students' needs are different. Students' levels of engagement are different. There's not a need for them to learn typing anymore, so we've got to move on. So I like to classify us as someone who's innovative and remains relevant. We also are very interested and we're committed in trying to make sure that our students, once they walk across the stage, whether it be a certificate or a degree, that they are we've gently handed them off to the university if they're going to a university to pursue their 4-year degree, finish that, or we've found them opportunities for employment. So we try to have open lines of communication. We try to be very responsive to our local community's needs for employment needs. And we try to help our students successfully become employed. So we truly look at the whole picture. It's not just about the students while they're sitting in the class. It's about helping them to get into the class. Becoming a college student is hard. It's hard sometimes.
It is.
So we try to help navigate that. And then we also want to make sure that their success extends beyond Lamar State College Orange.
What is your intention as the provost here at Lamar State College Orange?
It is to remove barriers and increase access throughout Southeast Texas. It is, and it is, we can do that. We need to be very mindful and deliberate in trying to make sure that the region in Texas in which we reside is no longer the lowest educated region.
Is it?
It is. It's the region for individuals aged 25 through 34. It's the lowest population of any individuals with any higher ed experience.
Wow, I did not know that.
So it is. We know that we have a lot of work to do. That's on us. We've got to handle that. We've got to make it more accessible and remove some of those barriers.
One of the great things about Lamar State College Orange is that you guys have a really great track record of the ready to work aspect. So they graduate and then like the next day they are ready to go and get a living wage, a lot of times higher than living wage job. Can you speak about that?
I can. So that's part of our being. We know that is important. Again, we can have them sit in our class all day long, but if they walk across that stage and they can't get a job and all they have is maybe debt, we hope not. My gosh, we hope that they've had scholarships that have helped supported their educational journey. But that's the worst fear that I would have, is that they have nothing to show for their time and money spent here. So what we do, one of the most recent things we've done is we've become the educational partner for the Federation of Advanced Manufacturing Education. So advanced manufacturing is basically in our industrial processing, all the plants we have around here. That's a very key piece of those employable skills. So as the educational partner, what we do is it's actually comprised, it's the Golden Triangle chapter. It's a national organization. We have a Golden Triangle chapter that is comprised of 8 or 10 businesses that cannot find employees. So they've come together, they've asked us to listen to what they need. Okay. We've built curriculum, and those partners have money and skin in the game. They have put up money for scholarships for students. They also employ those students 3 days a week. So last spring, they had a signing day where we had students who said, we want to come into this program. They had to come and interview with the partners. Before they'd even taken a class, mind you, they had to interview with them. They had to be selected, and the partners would say, yes, I want those 2 or those 3 students. So that when classes start, they'll come to you on Mondays and Wednesdays. They will be working with me on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 24 hours a week and paid. And we will be reinforcing what they're learning with you on Monday and Wednesday. And then after 5 semesters, they'll have their associate's degree and they'll be an employee of ours. So that is an example of the things that we try to craft and create so that our students have just a seamless transfer ready to go. It is important, it's incumbent upon us in higher education to make sure that we are not only training them in the classroom, but we are getting them ready for that next step. Without that, our training is really almost meaningless.
Oh my, I am blown away by this.
We're very proud of that.
You should be.
And it's an amazing program. It started in the fall, and more and more business partners are coming on. It's helping them because then they have that pipeline of employees that they've been desperately needing. What was happening before is you have these 5, 7, 10 industries. Well, they kind of undercut one another because I'll hire this one at this rate, and so they were robbing from.
Yes.
So they said, you know what? And so they looked at this model and they developed the Golden Triangle chapter, and they created kind of bylaws. They created regulations on how our curriculum is going to be designed, but also how they will help hire. So there's not the competition like it once was. It's about trying to support, because regionally it takes all of us. It can't be just this one plant or that plant. It takes all of us to be able to support the region.
You know what this makes me think about? It's become like a running joke now, even though it really isn't. You will ask somebody, you know, what is your degree plan? And then the next question is, but are you working in that? And it's always no.
I know.
You know, and it's become like a running joke.
It has.
But it really isn't.
It's very unfortunate, and we're seeing, I mean, that's a fear of ours. We really want to combat that. But, you know.
It really sounds like y'all are.
We are. We're really working with our industry partners to make sure that we do remain relevant and we're providing the employee that they need. So, but yeah, you're exactly right. It is sad when you go to a Home Depot and you see someone who's finished a degree maybe in something that's unrelated.
Yes, and you're working in a completely different field. How does someone know that they're ready for college?
So, at Lamar State College Orange, it is for everyone. We try to break down that stigma, if you will.
Okay.
And I feel like we're making some progress because we have so many first-generation students, which I was not a first-generation student, but I've heard horror stories of those who are, that stories that would range from their fear. They would drive into the parking lot and then they drive away. They couldn't even get out of the car. They were so scared. It is very, Crystal, it's hard to be a college student.
We don't make it hard.
Easy. Just like the name provost. Who knows what a provost is?
No one.
Who knows what a registrar is? Who knows what admissions, that people, we create these because of our own processes in college, right? So at Lamar State College Orange, we're trying to remove some of those things that just don't make sense, right? To those students who potentially would be students if they were not scared of that. So what our goal is for no one ever to ask, is college for me, but to ask, what is it I'm going to do at that college? And know that it doesn't mean you have to sit in a history or government or English class. You can. We want that. We've got great programs. But if you wanted to drive a bus, college is for you. If you wanted to be able to be that mother who's off with her children, or the father who's off at the same times and wanted to drive a bus, or maybe you were retired and you've had a career but you've retired and you want to come back and be a bus driver, Lamar State College Orange is here for you. So it is our goal to remove that question from people in Southeast Texas and instead reverse it where they're like, I know Lamar State College Orange is for me, but what program is for me? That's what our goal is. Because while there are some programs that do have a requirement that you have to pass this test or that test, that's certainly not by any means all of our programs. There's some selective ones, but there's a lot of them that are not. So it really can be for anyone.
And one of the things that I think is great is, as you've stated, and I concur, that college is difficult for anyone going to college, but especially first generation students, because you have no one that you can go back home to or pick up the phone and say, they told me to call the register. Who is that?
Yes.
You don't have anybody to help you with that and to navigate going to college. Oh my
One of the things I'm going to tell you we're very excited about, Crystal, is across from our campus, and you possibly drove by it. There's a church that's really has a dome on top of it.
Okay.
And we were gifted that church about 18 months ago by a foundation, a local foundation.
What's the name of the church?
It was I think it was the First Baptist Church,
okay.
And it's vacant now, but it was. The foundation that owned it did a lot of restorative work to it after Harvey. I mean, it was flooded in Harvey, but they did a lot of restorative work. So we acquired that, they gifted it to us, and we we went to the legislature and asked for money to restore it internally to create what we call a welcome center, a success center, if you will.
Okay.
And that is where a student will come in and do it all. Over in that church over there where that dome is, but we're hoping by mid-fall of next year, it will be completely done, and that will be the place where students will start their journey. So they don't have to figure out where's the registrar, where's this person, where's that. They're all in the same place, because we know that that's a barrier for students who finally have the courage or feel like they have enough support to come in and take that next step to become a college student. So they'll do it all in one place. They'll meet with the admissions, the applications, the advising, the financial aid. It's all done right there.
Oh, that's going to be so easy.
We're hoping. We really see that that's a need for students that have never had the experience of going to college, and it's challenging.
Listen, Dr. Wendy, when y'all open that or you're about to open it, I would love to come back and cover that for
Absolutely,
you guys.
we would
Call
love that.
me.
Crystal.
That's going to be amazing.
It is. It's beautiful on the outside. We're going to preserve the historical beauty. The stained glass windows are just gorgeous. So we're very excited about it. They shared with us the schematic design last week, and it's beautiful.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. You guys just recently opened a satellite office in Lumberton, Texas, which is maybe about 45 minutes, an hour from Orange, Texas. So I want to know about the satellite office in Lumberton, and what is a satellite office?
So a satellite office, or satellite campus, if you will, is an extension of Lamar State College Orange, but it's another location where a student can come in and take classes. So a student in Lumberton, and the reason we opened it, let me give you a little bit of backstory on that, to give you that perspective. We love the student, we love this community, we love it, but access, we want to remove barriers, we want to increase our access. And we see that we're making some really good movement here. We're providing access to students who are first generation, our enrollment is increasing. In 2020, when Dr. Johnson, the president, had finished his first full year, and he was preparing for the 10-year master plan, if you will, which is commonly done with higher education institutes. Colleges and universities, you do a 10-year master plan of your facilities, you do it somewhat of your strategic plan, you kind of look at that, is it still relevant? So there's a firm that comes in and helps you to do that. They look at lots of demographic indicators, geographic indicators. And so in the work that was done for that 10-year master plan, they designed what this campus should look like in 10 years, and you had these buildings. One of the things they identified is that about 80% of our students lived within 30 miles of our campus. Okay, we have some we knew live in Louisiana, about 8 to 10%, but there was a faction of students that were driving from Hardin County. And we're like, well, 30 miles of our campus, that gets us almost to Lumberton. Well, so we started looking into that, and we're like, that's kind of a barrier. And that's not what we're about. We're about removing some of those barriers. So what a satellite campus will allow is for students who live in closer to Lumberton to be able to just drive to that campus. And they'll be able to take classes there. So we, back in 2019, purchased a building that had formerly been a doctor's office, I think, and we renovated it. It took longer than we anticipated, which is typical of construction projects. And we're excited to announce we had a ribbon cutting back in October, and we are excited to have it open in the spring semester. So we're going to start our first
spring
class
2024?
2024. Okay. So we have employees that have started working there. It's open now. It opened this first week of November, so that people can come in and they can do an application, they can do their financial aid, they can do all that, and then they could register for classes that start on January the 16th, I think, 16th or 17th. It's a Tuesday. So we knew that would help remove that geographic barrier. So students were, like I said, driving from Hardin County or Lumberton to come here for certain programs. This is something we believe is small. It's not a very large facility right now. Our goal is to see that this is something that students really do want and add. The building and the property itself has acreage behind it that we can add another building to. Once we confirm and just see that this is indeed something that is going to take off and people will take advantage of, we will want to increase our building and have ability to do other programs there. Right now, it's going to be more of traditional classrooms teaching criminal justice, business, academic transfer, those type of courses. But our goal is to have enough interest to be able to justify building another site where we could do maybe a health professions program, whether it's dental or whether it's a nursing or something like that, or that's really what our goal is. But we have to just see is indeed this going to be what we anticipate it to be. So we're very excited about that. But the difference, what a satellite campus does not do, so there'll still be a student that's registered with Lamar State College Orange.
Okay.
They'll still use our processes and such. We won't have a president there. We won't have a provost there. So the administrative structure stays here.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have faculty that have there. We have a campus director there that she's going to be there to help manage. We have people to help the students do applications. They can do the application process there. But when it's time for graduation, for right now, I mean, their degree will say Lamar State College Orange. It's not going to say Lumberton. They'll say Lamar State College Orange.
Oh,
okay.
Excellent.
So it gives them access to a facility that's closer to them to complete our courses. That's what a satellite campus does.
Okay. And what doesn't, we're getting ready to wrap up the interview, what does Lamar State College Orange do? I know the educational piece is a huge piece, but what other components do you think this college brings to the residents of Orange, Texas and Southeast Texas?
So we are very focused in our community relations. We like to be the go-to person. If a partner needs a facility, we've got a beautiful brown estate, which is an old historic, it was a plantation home, if you will, that is part of we own. And so it's a nice venue. We allow people to go out there and use that venue. We want to be able to showcase that beautiful facility, as well as we've got some nice events in our campus. So we'd like to be where people can come. They feel like they can come. There's not per se anything in Orange, Texas of an event center. The lecture is beautiful and it's available for performances. Oftentimes we'll have graduation there. But we wanted to provide an opportunity for people, community partners, to come in and have whatever events they need. So we like to be that person. We also, like I said, we've got strong interests in the United Way, in the Rotary, in the Lions Club. We've got some of our employees are on city councils around here. So it's very important to Dr. Johnson and to me that we are always at the forefront of Orange County communities, whether it be Bridge City, whether it be Vidor, whether it be Orange itself, that we are a piece of that. We've got employees that are on some career technology boards. We try to be a piece of as many elements of the county as possible, so that we can have relationships with those people and really know what's coming or what's needed and where we can fill the gaps. But B, it just makes us better. I mean, we are a service organization, if you will. We are here to serve this community and to enrich it. And while we're very fortunate, I don't know if you've ever been to the Luxor Theater or the Art Museum or we've got cultural riches that are amazing, but we also need to be able to provide back to this community. So we take that part of our duties very seriously, and we want to be a great neighbor. We want to be a great partner in Orange County. So it's very important to us to do that.
You know, Dr. Wendy, you are a prime example why I love doing this podcast, because it's so many things, and we all do it. We live in our little bubbles, but it's so much that I just do not know. And job titles and people that I do not know, and I have the opportunity to sit down face to face with you and for you to explain to me with such passion what a provost is and everything that goes on behind the scenes at a college that I never thought of or even knew existed. So thank you so much. I mean, you are the intention for me in this podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. So with that in mind, who do you think would make a great guest to educate me and my viewers?
I would love for you to reach out to Stacy Nichols.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever had the privilege or pleasure of meeting her.
I have not.
So she is, she's the global training manager for International Paper. And she is, she starts, I know we're all on many facets, so she is just dynamic in so many roles. She is a board member with me on the Southeast Texas Workforce Board.
Okay.
She is the president of the Golden Triangle Fame. It is because of Stacy Nichols that the Fame model that I talked to you, or the Fame chapter I talked to you about, the Federation of Advanced Manufacturing and Education. She is the reason that it came to the Golden Triangle. It's all over the country, but we were the 4th chapter in Texas, so it's not huge. She's the reason. So I will give you her contact information. She would be so intriguing, and she's just a champion of relationships, of people. She's just special. She is like none other that I've ever met. So you would be blessed abundantly to be able to spend some time and learn from her. I always am.
I'm excited to meet her.
I have her contact information, and I will make that happen. So
thank you so much for sitting down and speaking with me on this podcast and educating me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a privilege.
And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get this podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.
Enjoy the ride with Crystal Petrie Console.